The Power of Compound. And I remember years ago, I was in New York, and I went to this evening called Intro to Millionaire Mind Intensive, and it was like a 3 hour evening, and there was a gentleman. His name was T.R. Vecker, and he wrote this book called. It was called
Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Thank you. And
Mm-hmm.
in that book, he kind of goes through these principles of the mindset of people that generate $1 million or more in revenue a year. And so this evening was unlike anything I had ever experienced. And I remember I was having conversations before going with Mr. Brown, and he was saying, I've heard some good things about this guy. I want you to check him out. So I go to this 3 hour evening, and I had never seen anything like this before. So he's talking about the thermostat and people's financial thermostat, and I had never heard that. And he was saying how people set it to a certain number. And for most people, so the average income is about 60 grand a year, $5,000 a month. And so most people set their financial thermostat to that, and they build their life around it, not understanding that they're in control of the thermostat. They're in control of their belief system, and that however they came up, that has an impact. It has an effect on you, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. So he's going through this evening, and he's talking about these principles and how that affects the decisions that you make. So we all have this internal mechanism that's going to accept whatever that number is, and even if we somehow come into some money or figure out a way to make more, we more often than not are going to self sabotage because our thermostat is set at a specific number. So I was really just I was captivated by what was being taught in this 3 hour evening, and I was looking at my own life and how did I grow up? Like to this day, I will not use coupons. I just won't do it. I refuse because everything that we had when I was growing up, if there was not a coupon attached to it, you couldn't have it. If it wasn't on sale, we were not getting it. And that drove me insane. And so I was, some of y'all might relate to this. I was the kid that had the generic no name brand jeans, going to school in clothes. And I knew I was going to get made fun of because they were on sale. There was a big department store called Sears back in the day. Like we were not going to the nice department stores. We were going to Sears. Like, so my upbringing, even though I could save, I refused to do it. So that was a part of my programming, and I'm watching T. Harv Eker go through this 3 hour training. I'm going back in my own memories, and I'm like, yeah, that's true. Like I do have certain, I do have certain beliefs. I do have certain programming on that. And so as he's going through the evening, he starts talking about this longer version of the event. And it's a 3 day event instead of 3 hours. And he starts telling people, he's like, you're going to run to the back of the room, and you're gonna sign up, and you're gonna pay for this event. And the event was like, I can't remember the exact number. Let's just say it was $2,000 or whatever. So, and I'm watching this unfold. And sure enough, by the time he gets to the very end of the evening, he opens up the opportunity to sign up for the event. And sure enough, I have never seen that many people get up and sprint to the back of the room to sign up for the event. And I was just like, whoa, my mind was blown. And I really looked at how he had built up value over the course of that 3 hours that justified him asking, but also justified somebody getting up and running to sign up because it was incredible value. There's no question about it. And I went to that 3 hour event. It was in Seattle, and that 3 day event, it was more like 3.5 days because we were doing like 14-hour days, but it was definitely transformational. And so that idea, this principle of your financial thermostat and what you deem as acceptable, and why haven't you moved beyond that, I think is a question that all of us must entertain. We must have the courage to engage with that question because it is showing up in our everyday life. And whatever your number is, you know, because you've averaged this income over the last 10 years. One of the things that we did, this was probably 4 or 5 months ago, I asked individuals to say, hey, I want you to the best of your recollection, write down what you've earned every year since you started earning income. And I want you to go all the way back to when you had a paper route, your first job bagging groceries, babysitting, and then each year, to the best of your recollection, just write that number down. And then over the course of to where you are now, total up all of the years so you can get your total income to date. And then what's been your best year? What's been the most amount of money you've ever made in one year? And write that number down. And when we did the follow-up call to that and people were sharing the revelation they got from that one very simple exercise, number one, they were shocked at the actual amount that they had earned because they had sold themselves short. They didn't realize they had made that much income to date. And then they also were looking at that best year ever. What's my best income year ever? And realizing that, holy crap, this is nowhere near what I believe is my true capacity. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the best lines of any Jay-Z song. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Numbers can tell a story. Numbers give us perspective. Numbers let us know what our priorities are. If you look at your investment portfolio, if you look at your spending over the last 90 days, where has your money gone? If you look at your bank account and look at the deposits and look at the debits, it tells a story. It tells you where you're spending your energies and what's important to you. And if you are willing to look at that and really sit down and look at it and evaluate, okay, is this in alignment with who I say I want to be? Is this moving me closer to my outcome? It gives you perspective, it gives you insight, and it allows you to make better decisions. So understanding that we have control over our thermostat is a starting point. Okay, I can change that. Change is a door that can only be opened from the inside, right? We can get information, you can get on calls like this, but at the end of the day, you have to be the one to unlock the door, all right? And then open it to other opportunities to grow and expand how you're moving in the world. But it's such a gift and an opportunity for you to say, hey, okay, so why has my thermostat been set? Let's call it 100,000 a year. So let's say you're not even the average, right? Let's say you're almost double the average. If your thermostat is set for $100,000 a year, that automatically is going to put you in the top 20% of income earners. Okay, great. That's fantastic. That's a starting point. But why? Why have you stopped there? Why have you decided that that's where you're going to park? And what internal mechanisms do you need to make adjustments in order to change that? So you got to look in the mirror. We call it the accountability mirror. It's the best place to spend your time when you're getting up, starting your day, when you're evaluating what you did that day and how did you fulfill your obligations throughout the course of the day. If you look in the accountability mirror and say, okay, my self-image. What is my self-image? What is my self-worth? What is my self-esteem? Because in order to accept someone else's value of you, it means that you have to subjugate yourself to their value. It's not yours, it's theirs. And if you ever allow yourself to be defined in terms of your value by someone else, they're always going to set it smaller than what you would. And you have to understand that. So if you're in the job space, for most people, not all, because some people are making, $500,000 or more a year on their jobs. So they feel, hey, I'm actually getting paid what I'm worth because it puts me in the top 2% of income earners. If you're making $500,000 or more a year, you're in the top 2 to 1%. Okay. So, but most people don't have jobs that pay them like that. And if you ask most people, are you overworked and underpaid? They're going to say, what? Yeah, of course I am. So why do you accept that? Or what are you doing about it? Are you doing anything about it? It's okay if you're saying, hey, this is temporary. You know, my friend Jerry, he says jobs are nothing more than a temporary inconvenience en route to earning what you're worth and building the life of your dreams. And I love that thinking because it's impossible for most jobs to really pay you what you're worth. They know that, you know it. So you resign yourself. This is important. What happens is as soon as you resign yourself to that routine, that ritual, a little piece of you is going to start to die. Roxana, you got to mute yourself, love. A little piece of you is going to start to die. And when that happens, your goals and your dreams, they shrink. They get smaller, or even worse, you put them on the shelf because you know deep down inside they're out of reach. You're not going to get there just by your job alone. And you see it all the time. So what happens when you compromise who you truly want to be, when you put your dreams on the shelf, you know what you start doing? You start self-sabotaging, you start self-destructing. That's why there's alcohol abuse. That's why there's drug abuse. That's why people have multiple relationships. That's why they have this high level of dysfunction. They're high level functioning in their job, but they're high level dysfunction in their personal life. Why? Because deep down inside, they're not happy, they're not fulfilled, they're not living up to their true significance. And so it slows everything down. And so what happens is you watch people, and this happens over and over again, and all of you know people like this. They have these jobs and they're not truly fulfilled. And so it shows up in their life. They're obese, they're out of shape. Again, they're abusing certain things. They overeat, they overindulge. They sit down in front of the electronic income reducer or the idiot box, and that's how they kind of check out from the reality of their life. There are all these things that are subtle, accumulative impacts on who they are, how they show up. And they make poor decisions. And it just builds up over time, okay? And it's slow. Now, we're talking about speed today. We're going to talk about why success loves speed. We're going to talk about the impact of speed and the idea that was planted in my mind about speed, wealth, and quantum leap. So let's go back now. All right. So I gave you all like a premise, a basic understanding of why people move the way they do and why they make the decisions that they make. And so they'll find other things to distract themselves from the reality that they're really never going to get paid what they're worth. They're always going to have to figure it out. They're always going to have to hustle and scrape and scrimp for extra money and do side jobs and this, that, and the other because they have no leverage because it's just them making the money. There's only 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. So then they find other ways to justify their current situation. Happens all the time. It doesn't mean that it has to, you're not stuck. You don't have to stay there. You can proactively completely change your life. You can proactively completely create better outcomes for yourself financially if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to unlearn, if you're willing to implement and be consistent in your actions to build up to that new reality that you want to create. So going back, so now I move from that 3-hour evening, and I go to the event, the Millionaire Mind Intensive, and it's a 3-day, like I said, 3.5-day event. And so we're going through these principles. We're really doing deep dive on what our archetype is, our financial archetype. So some of us are givers. Some of us are savers. We love to save. Some of us are spenders. We love to spend. Like it comes in, it's burning a hole in my pocket. As soon as I get it, I got to put it back out. And then some of us are investors. Like we really actively try to grow our money. I'll give you an example. There's a gentleman who worked for UPS for 36 years. He never made more than $45,000 in a year. Okay. UPS, never made more than $45,000 in a year. His archetype is investor. He donated, listen now, he donated, and I might be off by a couple I might be off. It could be 30, 36, but he donated $36 million to colleges. He never made more than $45,000 in a year. He donated more than 36 million because you know what he did? He took a portion of his income every single pay period and he put it in an investment. He studied, he learned about where to put money so to make money grow. He made it his business, his priority on how to make my money grow. It's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep and what you do with it. If that's not an example of that, I don't know what is. So his archetype is investor. If you want to know the exact number, because I know I'm messing up the numbers, just Google UPS worker donates millions of dollars, and then it'll pull up his story. So that's his archetype, right? He's an investor. You know other people who are earning $250,000, $300,000 a year, and they're broke. They're in debt. They're over leveraged. They're barely making their house payment. They have all of the flashy toys. They look like they're incredibly successful financially, but deep inside of the recesses of their home, they're drowning. They're drowning because they're spenders. That's their archetype. It doesn't matter that they're making $300,000, $400,000 a year. They don't know how to manage it. They're mismanaging it, okay? You're a giver. So you want to be the martyr. You want to be the giver. I just want to give. I want to serve. I want to bless people. And so even if you're making money, you give it all away, or you justify not making money. You know, you resign yourself to a job making 35, 45,000 a year, but you feel good about yourself because you spend so much of your time volunteering and giving back and being a blessing to other people. And you wear that as your badge of honor because you don't want to deal with the fact that you're running away from money. You're running away from your true value and self-worth. And if you were truly a giver, you would focus on making as much money as you could so you can give more. So the giver archetype is really, hey, I'm full of S. I'm full because in reality, I'm just doing this because I don't want to take ownership of what I'm really capable of. I read a book called Titan, and it talks about John D. Rockefeller's origins, his origin story, how he came to Standard Oil, and how he built the railroad, et cetera, et cetera. And one of his core beliefs was, it is my duty and responsibility to make as much money as I possibly can so that I can give as much as I possibly can. He would go to church 2 times a week without fail, never, ever, ever missed a week. But his driver was that was his core philosophy, okay? It doesn't matter if what he believed was in alignment or not with whatever he thought, religiously. It only matters that he believed it. And that was his driver, okay? So that's a giver in a very profound next level way. And obviously he lived up to that. Obviously he lived up to that and beyond it. He certainly left a mark on the planet, okay? And then the saver, okay? There are people who are they're obsessive about saving. And again, excuse me, my father is a saver. My father, listen to this. This blew my mind. Who here has a library card? Raise your hand if you got a library card that you actively use. Okay, I haven't used my library. I don't even know if do library cards expire? I don't know if they expire. They do? Okay. So mine, I know mine expired. So check this out. My father's a saver. You know how I know? He literally sent this to me and I put it up on the refrigerator. The library, the public library, and you can get movies and, you can order stuff. They sent him a tally of how much he has saved by going to the library. Instead of, and you have to go way back. I want y'all to go back to like Blockbuster when you used to have to walk into the video store and pick something off the shelf. And if you don't bring it back, if you don't rewind it, there's a fee. Like, you got to go back to Blockbuster. You got to go back to Redbox before Netflix. This man has literally saved over $36,000. It's on our refrigerator. He's a saver. That is his archetype. That is one of the reasons why we could never buy anything if there was not a coupon attached to it. I will always give him his flowers and pay him mad respect on that. Like, he is most certainly a financial advisor for me. So these are archetypes, right? We have the opportunity to take on and develop a new archetype. We can combine them. We can be a saver, but we can also be an investor. We can also be a giver, and we can also be a spender. We just have to do it with the right temperance. We have to have our financial thermostat set in such a way that it's in alignment with our principles and our values in terms of how we're moving with money. Okay. So I'm getting all of this, and it's such good content over the course of that 3.5 day training of the Millionaire Mind Intensive. And I'm greatly appreciative to T. Harv Eker for what I learned from him. And fast forward, I ended up training for him for Train the Trainer, because I wasn't a speaker then. I was literally like developing, getting my platform together. But a few years later, I ended up being a trainer for him. But my point is that it doesn't take a lot of time for us to gather some of the foundational seeds of change. It takes a moment, right, to make a decision. Like, someone says, I've had enough and I'm out. And they literally just walk out of that job. They're like, I ain't coming back. I'm done. Somebody says, I've had enough. I am done smoking. One of my clients, we just celebrated her 39th day of being smoke-free after smoking since she was started when she was 13 years of age. So imagine smoking every day for over 30 years and deciding, like, I've had enough. I'm done. Like, it takes a second, right? And then your behavior has to live up to the decision that you made. And it might shock. It should shock and awe, not only you, but anybody that knows you that's around you. Like, that's a shock and awe decision, right? You make a decision and then boom. And people will look at you and they're like, I can't, like, they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And truth be told, you might be waiting for the other shoe to drop too. You might be waiting for you to trip and fall back into your old habit patterns. And that fear, that I call it a healthy paranoia, keeps you honest. It keeps you respectful of how tenuous it is to walk the line of leveling up in your life. Okay? Leveling up in your life is a tenuous position because you're literally saying, I've been living one way for whatever, 10, 20, 30 plus years. And I've decided today I'm going to change. You have that power. You can. Is it easy? No, of course not. If it were easy, everybody would do it. People make decisions all the time. People tell you they're going to do stuff all the time. People make declarations all the time. Very few stick with it and follow through. Very few are willing to keep their commitment to their commitment. So when you make that decision, you just have to back it up with action. If you do, your life will change forever. It will change forever. I promise you. Like, I'm telling you, it will change forever. It has not, like, your past. It's an old timely saying. Your past has absolutely nothing to do with your future. Nothing. Today, your current circumstances. Your future is much bigger than your current circumstances. See, when I was off Broadway and I was doing a play called The Exonerated, and I was meeting, so it was a true story about people that were wrongfully convicted for crimes that they didn't do, and they were sentenced to death. They were put on death row. True, they were all true stories. All true stories. And that's a topic for another day if I were to share with you, like, the stories and what the horror that these individuals had to live through for, 10, 15, 20, 24 years. Imagine somebody just coming into your life and interrupting everything, snatching you out of your life, putting you on death row, having solitary confinement, being in a jail cell 23 hours out of a 24-hour day. And imagine that's your life like that. Okay? Meeting these individuals, and they were overturned. Those convictions were overturned because of DNA evidence. That's why we call it the exonerated. And we took this play, it was off Broadway for years. We took it across the country. We helped to create a moratorium on the death penalty in the state of Illinois because of that play. It was a big part of that. Watching them make a decision from the day they were released to the life that they were now committed to, it was absolutely mind-boggling to me. I could not wrap my head around it. Even though I have to portray this person, I have to play this person on stage, I couldn't wrap my head around the reality of that. Like, how do you do that? Your life was paused. You were minding your own business. Some were married, some had kids, and then boom, you're gone. And then 15 years later, oh, we made a mistake. Not, by the way, not, I'm sorry. No apology. Made a mistake, my bad. And then you're thrown back. And watching those individuals literally reinvent themselves. That's the power that we all possess. The prison cells are different, but it's still the same dynamic. So many people have become prisoners to their limiting beliefs, their low expectations. They've become prisoner to their low self-esteem and low self-worth and low self-image. They've become prisoner to their routines. They're just doing what they know how to do, not having the courage to interrupt that pattern and say, I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to develop a new skill. I'm going to do something I've never done before in order to create the life that I've never had. I'm willing to go into the realm of uncertainty, even though it's uncomfortable and unfamiliar, even though on a cellular level, my whole body is fighting against it. I'm going to press forward because I want the light that's on the other side of that. In order to appreciate light, you have to go through darkness. There's no child that's ever been birthed out of light. They're birthed out of darkness. And when you're giving birth to something new, it cannot happen without it passing through darkness. And you know what that darkness is? It's the darkness of the unknown. You cannot see. That is why your mind sight is so much more important than your eyesight. You got to cultivate and develop a vision of what it is that you want to produce and create in your life. And then you commit to it. Now, the good news is that you have all of these guideposts that are available to you in order to create that reality. You have other individuals that are already doing what it is that you aspire to do. You want to create a better life. You want to get there faster. You want to make a quantum leap. There's already examples of people in real time that have already done it or doing it right now. So coming out of that 3.5 day sojourn, I started to challenge my own conventional beliefs on what was possible. And I started to embrace being uncomfortable. I started to ask for more help. Some of us, we're so accustomed to doing stuff on our own. We're so accustomed to playing the role of Lone Ranger. We're so accustomed to just having to figure stuff out because that's the hand that life has dealt us. And so we think that's just the way it's supposed to be. I'm not supposed to ask for help because it makes me look weak. No, asking for help will keep you strong. Getting perspective will keep you on the right track. If you had all the answers, you'd be exactly where you wanted to be. You'd have everything you ever wanted in life. Nobody has all the answers. It doesn't work that way. So if you're willing to leverage the guideposts that exist, good things can happen. So I came out of that event and I said, Mr. Brown, I decided I know what I want. I said, I want to double my income as an actor. And I was like, I remember saying the words. It made me extremely uncomfortable to say it out loud. Because at that point in time, I was I was doing theater. I was starting to do a little more TV and film. So like I was making, a little bit more money, not a lot. Like when I say a little bit more money, I was making like 60 grand a year. Okay. Between theater and like a TV gig here and there. Like it wasn't a lot, but I could live, I could pay my bills. And that's all I wanted. Like I just wanted to be a full-time working actor. But I knew that I had more capacity. Now you got to understand, acting, it's over 92 to 93% unemployment. Majority of actors don't even work. The ones that do, it's like 0.06% that are making a full-time living doing it. The ones that you know by name, the actors that I love Viola Davis, man, I love Denzel Washington, I love Brad Pitt, whatever. That's 0.06% of the entire body of actors, right? So here I am in an industry where it's over 92% unemployment, and I'm saying I want to double my income. I don't even know when my next audition is coming. It made me physically uncomfortable to say it out loud. Some of you, deep down inside what you really want. You don't even have the courage to speak it out loud because it makes you that uncomfortable. You know deep down inside what you really want, but you won't even say it because it makes you that uncomfortable. See, when you've been living a life built on your own self-imposed limitations, and you've been doing it for years, living a life based solely on your own self-imposed limitations, you've been doing what's wrong for so long that what's right feels wrong. Makes you uncomfortable. I can't believe it. So I'll never forget, Mr. Brown said, Ed, you want to double your income? Yes, sir. I said, but I don't know how that's going to happen. He's like, Ed, the how is none of your business. It's none of your business. Just make the commitment and then do exactly what I'm going to tell you to do. And he gave me a very simple formula. He's like, I want you to listen to no less than an hour of audio every day. Audio that is positive and empowering. He's like, I don't care what it is. You can listen to me, you listen to this speaker, like whatever, but it's got to be positive and empowering every single day, no less than an hour. You must read a minimum of 20 pages a day out of a book that is going to develop you and make you stronger, make you better. Okay. I said, okay. I was like, what else? Because I'm waiting for like this 25-point plan on how to get there. He's like, just do those two things. Keep doing what you're doing. Like keep, working, auditioning, sharpening your skills, developing your craft, but do those two things. I said, okay. I'm still like, that's it? Like, there's got to be more. Like, come on, man. Like I felt like he was holding something from me. I felt like he's got, you must have the mystical secret, right? You're Les Brown. You barely graduated high school, barely. And you're training multi-$100 million corporations. You're speaking all over the world. People are literally paying you $50,000 an hour for your intellectual property, and you barely graduated high school. So in my head, I'm like, he's not telling me. Why is he not telling me? Like, what's he doing? Is he playing games with me? Like, is he messing with me? What does he mean? Just listen to an hour of audio that's empowering, and I got to read 20 pages from the personal development. Like, that's it? I really felt like he was messing with me, y'all. Like, I was like, all right. So I kind of left with a little bit of an attitude. I didn't let him see that, but I had an attitude. But I was like, fine, I'm going to do what he tells me to do. I just decided I was going to submit. See, you have to learn how to be submissive. Be submissive to your greater goals and aspirations. Submit to your bigger dreams. And just do the freaking work. Stop questioning everything. Stop thinking that, there has to be an angle. Stop looking at other people's success and thinking and creating stories in your head why they're successful and why you're not. If anything, that should fire you up. If anything, that should piss you on. If anything, that should give you greater fuel to keep moving forward. So I did exactly what he told me to do. And you know what happened over the next 6 months? I doubled my income. Over the next 6 months, I got gigs. I mean, my career track just went like it just boom. It just that's when I ended up on Broadway. That's when I ended up in the biggest movie that I've to this day I've ever done, ever been a part of. Because I just trusted what he was telling me. I decided I was going to move in faith and not fear. Okay? I was going to move in faith and not fear. By the way, if you go to the 2% Nation YouTube channel, there's a talk I did this week on faith over fear, faith versus fear. Check it out. It really highlights this, really highlights it. So that for me was a quantum leap. I didn't think it was going to happen in 6 months. I was preparing my mind for 12 months. What was the lesson? A lot of times we think things need to take longer than they really need to. They don't. They don't. Sometimes we extend things and we draw things out, and they don't really need to be drawn out like that. They can happen quicker. So understanding the principles of a quantum leap and speed wealth, and he actually wrote a book, T.R. Becker did, called Speed Wealth, and I read that book, and there's another one called U Square. U Square talks about making quantum leaps and why, if you make certain adjustments and tweaks in your mindset and then your activities in alignment with that, you can do things faster. My question to you is, have you developed a habit of going really slow? Beverly and I were talking about this at the start of the call, getting ready to get ready. That was something I suffered from because I wanted everything to be a certain way. And I got to start my day and got to make sure everything's just right. And like, that's kind of I have to be conscious of it because I can fall into the trap because I'm a very organized person. I'm a person that's neat. So I can spend too much time doing it. So the way that I negotiated that was I said, okay, well, if you want to get ready, I'll just get up at 4:30 in the morning. That way, no matter what, I can start my day at 7. That was my way of addressing my own propensity of getting ready to get ready. I just said, well, I'll give myself 2.5 hours to do whatever the hell I want to do. And I can take as much time as I want because I can hit the ground running at 7 a.m. if I get up at 4:30. And guess what? It works. It works for me. So you got to know yourself to understand your own pitfalls and where you've already placed the booby traps to self-sabotage it. If you know that about yourself, then you just do things to parry it, okay? So speed and quantum leaps. Let me ask you something. All right, so here's the exercise again if you missed it. You can do it after we get off this call. Write down, to the best of your recollection, the money you've made from the very first time you started making money, from babysitting, paper routes, mowing lawns, shoveling driveways, to your first job, all the way to now. So every year, okay, I've made this much. And then you do it to the best of your recollection to date, and then you total it up. Hey, I've made this much income in my lifetime. Once you have that number, identify your best year ever. I made the most money on this year. Why? What did you do? You're the same person, right? Whatever your best year is, I mean, that's who you are now. So if you did it once, you could do it again and ask yourself, is that all I got? Like, is that all I have? Is that my best year ever? Or do I believe that I'm capable of more? I know that most human beings sell themselves short. I personally believe that people, myself included, are leaving at least 30-40% on the table that we haven't even taprooted yet. We haven't even tapped into yet. If we really ask ourselves, like, man, have you really given this everything you got? Nope. What if I did? What would it look like? Okay. This is how you get to the quantum. You get to the quantum by assessing the current and understanding that, man, I haven't even scratched the surface of what I'm capable of. Part of it is your thought process, your mindset, making a decision, I'm going to get it done. Making a decision that this result is a foregone conclusion. Making a decision that no matter what, come hell or high water, I'm getting to this number, and this is going to be a new standard. I'm resetting the thermostat so that now the thing that gauges and measures the temperature is going to be based on my setting, my internal mechanism. I no longer will accept anything below this number as my annual income. And once you make that commitment and that decision, you start thinking differently. You start looking, and your antenna goes up in different ways. You start being open to other opportunities and other ways to generate revenue. So, because I had that initial experience over that 6-month period of doing exactly what Mr. Brown told me, that never left me. And so, here's what I'd like for you to do. Let's say you're in this category, and I'm not, please, I'm not calling anybody here average. I'm not saying you're mediocre, but for the sake of the average income, all right, it's $60,000 a year, okay? Can somebody tell me how long would it take for you to make $1 million? Can somebody do that math for me? Can you divide 1 million by 60,000? Because if I'm not mistaken, it's like 50. Is that 20 years? No? Beverly, you doing the math for me? So how many years is it?
16.6.
Got it. Okay. So let's just call it 17. We'll round up to 17 years equals $1 million. So think about this. Would you all agree that most of the people that are in your circle have probably earned $1 million over their lifetime? Like probably well over that. So it's not that people don't have the capacity to earn $1 million, okay? Because we think $1 million. Oh, who wouldn't want $1 million? When in reality, most of us have made over $1 million in our working career. But the question is, would you rather make $1 million in 17 years, or would you rather make $1 million in 17 months? What do you think is more impactful and dynamic? $1 million in 17 years or 17 months? The answer is obvious. It's a different, everything changes. Do you understand? Everything changes when you do that. Your entire life view, how you experience life, your expectations from life, how you approach and think and move through life, everything changes between 17 months and 17 years. It's impossible for you to have a low expectation in your thermostat when you do it in 17 months. You can't do it without a certain type of mindset. If you can do it in 17 months, why not do it in 17 months instead of taking 17 years? It's a completely different dynamic. The question is, how do I need to adjust my thinking? And what vehicle do I need to look at in order to help me do that? Because obviously, if for anybody making $60,000 a year in the job is not the vehicle. That job is only a temporary inconvenience. That job is simply a reminder of the purgatory that you choose to exist in. You choose to exist in. So you can make some different choices. You can make different pivots and where I said, let me look at this guidepost over here. Let me look at this guidepost over here. Let me look at this guidepost over here. I started having conversations with people that were making, listen to me very carefully, with people that were making $60,000 or more a month. I started having conversation. I started building and cultivating relationship with people that were making a minimum of $60,000 a month. And in having conversation with those people, I came to the realization so fast, there is nothing that they have that I don't have. There's nothing that they can do that I can't do. They're putting their pants on one leg at a time, just like I do. So I need to start making different decisions. I need to start moving differently. So I reset my thermostat. And even though I didn't know fully the how, I was committed to the outcome. Commit first, create second. Commit first, create second. And because of that, and I put that with massive action, very focused, intentional, massive action. It was literally 4 years to the day that I made the quantum to multiple 5 figures every single month. Like it was not even it became a norm. It was a norm for me. And not because again, I was doing anything magic. No, it was a way of thinking. It was a belief. It was a movement from faith, not fear, and a willingness to focus on solving problems, adding value, and outworking anybody to my left or right. And so those are all intangibles, ladies and gentlemen, that anybody can have and possess and act on. Anybody can do it. The question is, will you do it? It's not a question of, can you do it? It's a question of, will you do it? Because we all have that capacity. And so I submit to you that you can make quantum leaps if you start making better decisions about what you're going to do to earn income. I am not telling anybody to quit your job. Please don't misunderstand that. Don't do that. That's dumb. What I am telling you is identify a vehicle that can help get you quicker to your outcome. Nobody wants to get rich slow, get rich fast. And when I say fast, I'm talking about 3 to 5 years. And when I say rich, I just mean you have way more money coming in every month than you could possibly spend. Rich is not necessarily millions of dollars. It just means I have way more money coming in every month. If my bills are $5,000 a month and I have $15,000 coming in every month, to me, that's rich. Because you're bringing in triple what your baseline expenses are, which tells me that you have $10,000 to play with, which means you could start learning more about investing. You're going to you're going to go out of your way to track down the UPS guy. Who were you investing with? Tell me your philosophy. Like you're going to take out of that 10,000 extra, you're going to get on flights, you're going to track people down, you're going to hire private detectives to find the UPS guy and say, I'll take you out to dinner. Can I take you out to dinner, please, once a week, sir? And pick your brain. Do you understand the thinking that I'm just laying down right now? So many people, the reason people get lost in the sauce is because they think, if I got to make millions of dollars to be successful, I need to make $1 million. No. How do I have way more money coming in that I can spend? And then how do I take that extra money so that I can go learn, become a better student, and really learn how to make my money go to work for me? That's how you do the quantum leap. That's why success loves speed. Now, it all starts with that foundational level. The business that I do now, the business that we do now, it's about how quickly can we have conversations with people, how quickly can we introduce them to our process, and how quickly we can get them to make a decision. The faster we do that, the faster our business grows. The faster our business grows, when you do it long enough, it catches a wave. It catches it's like when you're digging, right? And you're digging, there's a movie called There Will Be Blood. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. There Will Be Blood. Daniel Day-Lewis. And you tap. You're digging. And eventually you hit the wellspring and then boom, oil shoots up. And no matter what you do, you can't stop it. At that point, you have to put things in place in order to harness the momentum of all that oil, and then you direct it so that it's going in the right places. When you're building your business and you're building your business and you're building your business, and every single day you're making phone calls, you're having conversations, you're getting people in front of the information, showing them the process, getting into a decision. It doesn't matter if it's yes or no, just getting into a decision. The faster you do that, the faster it grows, grows, grows. And at some point, it hits a vein, it pops. And there's absolutely nothing you can do to stop it. You cannot do that on your job. It's not even, it doesn't exist in your job. And you know what working a job is for a lot of people? Not all. It's financial abuse. I said this before, there's domestic violence, right? You're with a partner, you're in an intimate relationship, and that person berates you. That person talks down to you. That person disrespects you. And over time, it eats away at your self-esteem. And over time, you just lose yourself and you lose your confidence. And you don't even have enough to go out here and make a new way for yourself because you've been so beaten down, and you just kind of stay because it's like, oh, well, at least I'm not alone. That's how a lot of people feel about their jobs. Financial abuse. Well, at least I have a job. I'm grateful I got a paycheck. Even though you know you're overworked, underpaid, underappreciated, and sometimes disrespected, you have succumbed to financial abuse, and you've been so beaten down regarding your self-worth, you wouldn't dare aspire for more. You wouldn't dream of earning in a month what you're already making in a year, even though it is a fact that there are literally hundreds and hundreds of people making every month what you make in a year. And I just demonstrated to all of you what happens with that 17-month span to a million versus 17 years. All of you said to me, without opening your mouth, I will take the 17 months, Ed. I'd rather have that, because who I would have to become in order to get to that point, and how the rest of my life will look after that, I'll take that transformation instead of a slow, steady march to the freaking graveyard because I've resigned myself to the financial abuse of my current employment status. I'm submitting to each and every one of you. What we're doing is holistic. It's not solely about the money. The money is a measuring tool. It's about how we show up in our spiritual life, in our family life, our values and our principles, how we treat the least of these, how we provide value to our communities, our fitness, our health, our well-being. It is holistic because we're doing very good business because it's based on all of that I just laid out. If you're not a part of our community, you are now by virtue of seeing this. If you want to become a part of our community, if somebody is sharing this message with you, make sure you spend some time with that person who shared this message with you because they know some things that you don't know. Take a look at our business model because it freaking works.